Hello, I'm Chris, and this is GratitudeSpace Radio, and we are doing a productive accidents. It's a volume two with got many friends here. So got my friend Manu. Will you say hi, please?
Hi, hi, Wes.
Nice to see you there in Austin, Texas. And I got my friend Gail. Can you say hi, Gail?
Hi, Chris.
Nice to see you. And Peter, something's going on with him, which is fine. I'm sure he'll show back up when he gets a chance. The cool thing is this is a productive accidents episode. So basically what we're doing here is, hey, Peter, how you doing, man?
I'm good, thanks. I'm just checking that my Wi-Fi is working okay. I think it's okay.
I think so too. Yeah, we're so good. So say hi, Peter. I've already introduced Manu and Gail.
Hi, so it's Peter Williams here, based in Hong Kong. Today is going to be a fun conversation discovering how we all met and came to have this talk today. So I'm looking forward to learning more about Manu and catching up with Gail and of course you, Chris.
Thanks, Peter. Yeah, I'm glad we could do this. Long story short, I met Peter through mutual friends company, the 747 Club, and then Peter and I became good friends, and we've done some. He's been on the podcast, and I've read his book and really enjoyed his book. And then he introduced me to Gail, who's awesome, and she and I've been meeting with a group that she put together every Wednesday morning, which has been really great, which we can talk about. And she then interviewed my father, and definitely want to hear about Gail's interviewing and her writing. That was something we definitely want to talk about. And then I met Manu through Gail through the Wednesday morning sessions and their kindness project. So how about, I don't know, Peter, do you want to open up about how you met Gail, and then we'll just kind of flower this thing around?
Yeah, so one of the key themes in this whole idea of productive accidents, which I discovered during business school, is around the benefit of building bridges between closed networks. And so anytime you're connecting to a different industry or a different location or a different function or activity, that's where some magic can happen, because you're more likely to be able to contribute to each other's lives and create value just by being observant and sharing the things that you've discovered over your life. And so years ago, about 5 years ago, I did one of Seth Godin's programs called the Alt MBA. And at the time, I was in batch number 2, and I was attracted to it because I thought, okay, here's 100 kind of like-minded, curious people converging to learn and do this accelerated 1 month sort of writing leadership program. And then, that meant there were 200 alumni. Fast forward to now, I think there's closer to 4,000. And a lot of these alumni are self-organizing and doing things like, if you want to learn how to do a podcast series, you can do that. If you want to be a better writer or a storyteller, there's a program on that. Freelancing, marketing, bootstrapping, all these different programs. And this year there was a new one called the Creatives Workshop. And I was attracted to that because it's for people that wanted to finish a project. If you're a writer, try to do 100-day streak, pick up your pen and write something every day. That was perfect for me because I wanted to finish the book about productive accidents. If you're a musician, pick up your instrument and play something, compose something every day. If you're a poet, write a poem. And alongside of that 100-day discipline, you also got 3 prompts per week: Monday, Wednesday, Friday, my time. It fitted in really well. And you get to interact with this interesting mix of people. And one of those people was Gail. And Gail was very proactive in setting up offline conversations. And one little subgroup was called the Hedgehogs. And even though the program finished, it's evolved into this fortnightly conversation with, a lady in Ireland and people in New Jersey, and Gail in around Milwaukee, and I'm in Hong Kong. And again, that's a perfect example of productive accidents and how we're collaborating on different projects. One of them included a conversation where Gail said, look, I went into my local coffee shop this week, met this 88-year-old gentleman. He had a really interesting story. I'm going to interview him. And I was like, well, my father's 88. And someone else, I think, jumped on and said, well, my mother's 88. And I said, well, why don't you do like an 88-year-old, speaker series or interview series. And a week or two later, I connected Gail to my parents in Australia, and they had a 1-hour conversation. And what's cool about it is Gail was able to digest their lives into a poem and publish that on her blog. And then I mentioned, I think to you, Chris, hey, Gail might be able to interview your father. I think that turned into a 2-hour conversation. And other people like Eileen Levi in Hong Kong, her mum got interviewed. And I think that turned into some other side project where they all did an art project together. Anyway, I need to hand over to Gail because I'm sure I'm only touching the surface, but you get the idea. Like these interesting connections and collaborations keep on happening. And that's where the fun is. And that's why this conversation, this series of productive accidents / gratitude space radio, I'm looking forward to seeing how we can organically make each conversation connect. So last week we had Thor, this week we've got Gail, next week I'm sure, we've already got ideas on where we can take this. So I'm going to pause, let you guys take over.
Yeah, Gail, if you want to go ahead and, speak from your end, meeting Peter and going into, what you're doing with Manu, that'd be awesome. And then, take it from there.
Okay, sounds great. So I met Peter, as he mentioned, in our group called the Hedgehogs. He came to us a little bit later after a month or so into the workshop, and he was a really welcome addition because he brought along his idea of productive accidents. And oh my goodness, the power that lies in that. Peter is a fantastic connector. Within a short period of time, he did connect me to his parents in Australia. And a year ago, if you had asked me if I was going to be having a conversation with an 88 and an 86-year-old who lived in Australia, I would have said, no way, but Peter made it happen. And then he also connected me to you, Chris, which is fantastic because we have blossomed into other conversations, and I've shared some stories with you for your gratitude anthology. And the creatives workshop that Peter mentioned was fantastic because that opened up so many connections. One of the most precious to me is my connection to Manu. Early in the workshop, we had a collaboration around Mother's Day where Manu created some cartoons and I added some prose or poetry to his cartoon, and we published it, I think, on Instagram. And then after that, because it went so well, we were looking for another project to work on together, and we created something called the Gift of Shared Kindness. So I'm not sure if you want to get into that right away or if you want Manu to share his connections now.
Yeah, why don't Manu, why don't you go ahead and share your connection, and then you guys can both together kind of talk about the Gift of Shared Kindness. It'd be great.
Sure. So I'll start off with something probably, Gail, you do not remember, and which really caused you and Peter to meet. Can I say that? So when we joined the creatives workshop, you remember it was all the homerooms, and I would say that homerooms were probably big and they never really worked. But because you and me were in the same homeroom, and that's how the connection really came. And I guess that both of us joined on the same day, and that's when, because we got landed in the homerooms, and the first thing you do is what's your favorite book and all that. And once you are in the workshop, you're always frantically looking for connections. That's when your neurons are most fired up. And then once you make connections, they're already so much, and you start getting overwhelmed. So much before we started getting overwhelmed, we got connected. So that was I would call serendipity, you would call synchronicity. I know we have our own repertoire of words on that, but not that. When we were in the first homeroom meeting, I know that you were a quiet lady. You said later that you don't really come across, in a group and all. You usually reserve. And then those animal groups were forming, and I got into I think it's called the snakes group or something like that, and you were not in the group, and some people were wondering why are they not in the group. And I think I told you there are other groups like hedgehog group, and if I'm not wrong, you were the first one to join the hedgehog group, and you can self join. And just because you were the first one, you were given that opportunity to lead or something. You were the leader, default leader, and probably that's where Peter came, and then you and both started, getting into the hedgehog group. So you can see so many, connections really forming by serendipity, synchronicity here. So I just wanted to share with you another aspect which, probably we might have forgotten. And there might be many other aspects, which things falling rightly in place that we all got connected.
That's
Yeah.
I think the
wonderful.
other thing that's happened is, once you have the vocabulary for this stuff, whether it's serendipity or happenstance or, productive accidents, you start to see it happening so frequently. And then you switch your mindset to say, well, look, I expect this to happen. And it does. It becomes so predictable and repeatable. So I'm looking forward to seeing where this conversation goes and what happens off the back of it. Even now, I'm looking at where you're based, Manu, in Austin, Texas. I was supposed to be in South by Southwest for the first time this year. Obviously, that didn't quite happen, but that evolved into me looking for what else is out there as an alternative. And I discovered some connections on LinkedIn who spoke about a podcast series called This Beautiful Business. And I looked it up on Spotify, discovered that it was created or hosted by a guy called Jonathan Cook, reached out to him on LinkedIn, started a little conversation. A week or two later, he interviewed me. I'm sitting in this hanging hammock on the balcony. It's become a sort of a recurring theme. And he ended up turning that conversation into a small podcast series on how COVID-19 is changing workplace culture. And I also discovered his other podcast, which is this one around, making research less statistical and more human. And that's where he introduced the House of Beautiful Business. I researched that. It's a think tank out of Berlin. They normally do a meetup or a gathering in Lisbon each year in October. And I thought, well, maybe this COVID will be over by then. I think it was in April or May. Unfortunately, no. So the House of Beautiful Business evolved into 35 cities that did pop-ups around the world. And I decided I'd host Hong Kong. We did a Saturday in our home here with about, 10 different speakers, and then a boat trip on the Sunday. We got Chris to zoom in and talk about, GratitudeSpace radio on the Sunday. I had a guy, another friend who used to live in Hong Kong, David Goldsmith, came in and spoke about his project to build a hut on the moon, which, it's like the variety of conversations were interesting. And then we had Greg Larkin late on the Sunday dial in and talk about punks and pinstripes, which is a spin-off of his book called This Might Get Me Fired. So all of these connections and collaborations, so it didn't get to South by Southwest, didn't get to Lisbon, but virtually all these amazing things have happened. Even the 747 Club that Chris referred to earlier, or Gratitude and Pasta, that only happened because someone in the creators workshop mentioned that this guy was hosting dinners in his place in New York, but because of COVID, it had pivoted to Zoom. And I've got a gratitude project, so that's why I reached out to Chris Schembra and joined one of his events, and that turned into a bunch of collaborations as well. And that's eventually how I met Chris Palmer. So all of this stuff is connected. So it's what we do with it next is kind of up to us. So I'm sure there's going to be some more adventures. Even I forgot about your book, Chris, the Gratitude Anthology. Suddenly I've got, so Gail contributed, a lady that goes on a Monday morning hike. Nancy contributed, my daughter contributed, a whole bunch of good fun. I did an essay. Anyway, so I'm looking forward to seeing that getting published. Have you got an update on the timing?
We're still looking for the 3rd or 4th week in November, but everything's in play. And you're definitely an MVP, and then my fiance is an MVP with bringing in. She surprised me with, I think, 9 essays over a period of 3 days with her group of friends, which I completely failed to ask because English is her second language. So yeah, it's wonderful. Yeah, you've connected me with some wonderful. So I talking with Peter about gratitude and initiating gratitude and how that's my bag. The fact that he's initiated these people to like write these essays has just brought me so much joy, because that's what I love more than anything, is initiating. And Peter gets it, and because I initiated Peter and he initiated his friends and Gail and us, it's just like it's just all good, you know. We all get, with gratitude, we all get the full flux of what that is and the meaning of it. So it's a really beautiful thing, and I definitely could not thank you enough for that, Peter.
Oh, you're welcome. And parallel to this, I'm getting messages from Eileen popping up, Gail. So do you want to talk about what happened there?
I do. So Peter introduced me to his friend Eileen through WhatsApp, I believe. And Eileen happened to be back in the States from Hong Kong, spending some time with her mother, who was having her 80th birthday within a week or two of our first connection. So I offered to speak with her. She asked if I would speak with her, but she wanted me to wait until the day after her 80th birthday, since I was talking to people in their 80s. So I got to talk to Susan a couple of days after her 80th birthday, and it was a magical experience. She's just a very bright, vibrant woman who was teaching until about 2 or 3 months before our conversation. So she was 79 when she retired, and the only reason she did was because of COVID. So she was teaching biology or working with teachers who teach biology, student teachers. And one of the questions I had asked her was about technology, because one of the things I'm finding with people in their 80s is they're across the board on their comfort level with tech. And Susan said she had to learn tech because all of her students used texting and such to communicate with each other instead of phone calls. So she was able to use Zoom or FaceTime or however we connected. It was fantastic.
That's
And what
wonderful.
about the art project? How did that happen?
Yes, that's another piece to it. You're right. So the art project, part of the creatives workshop, there is a friend named Cato who received a grant from a university somewhere out east to host an art class, an online art class over 4 weeks. And I wrote about it in my blog, and Eileen, who was following my blog, read about this online art class, and she signed up along with her mother and several other people in the United States, friends and family. So the first night that I showed up to the art class, Eileen had brought about 4 or 5 people along with her. And throughout the class, we learned about a journaling technique, and we practiced our drawing, and it was fantastic. And Manu participated as well. He did the Saturday class.
Very cool.
That's awesome. Before I would totally want to talk about your all's project, your Manu's project, but before we get into that, I'd love to just go around the room and go, you know, Gail, in this moment, what are 3 things you're grateful for?
Aha. I knew you were going to ask, and so I'm prepared. The first thing that I want to say is it's important to be present. So I want to focus on this moment, what I am grateful for in this moment. I'm grateful for Manu and his hand that he extended to collaborate with me. I am thankful to Peter and his productive accident magic. And I am thankful for you, Chris, for inviting us here and for everything you've brought to my life.
Oh, thank you, Gail. It was beautiful. Thank you. All right, Manu, you're up, man. What are 3 things in this moment you're grateful for?
Okay, so it's important to be present, to that. And really, I'm thankful for Gail, first of all, to really help me out. Of course, she brought this whole idea about gift of shared kindness, and probably will go further about it was her experience and that she brought, and we are able to go so far. So I'm really grateful for that. Next, I would say my wife, because she led me into my creative journey. Otherwise, I was just writing professional emails. But she said that, you write professional emails well in a creative manner, so you should start writing. And third, I would say, just for the fun of it, I'm grateful for Tesla, because I bought some shares for Tesla. I never buy, and I just earned $1,000 in profit on February 4th, And I thought I just sold those shares. I thought I had to do something about it. And I signed up with the creatives workshop with that money. Otherwise, probably I would
Nice.
not have. That was a threshold. So I'm just thankful for Tesla for doing well in stock market that day.
Wow, what another accident, the backstory of him getting to the writers thing. How about that? That was, love that. All right, Peter, up, man. What's three things in the moment you're grateful for?
Well, I'm going to say Tesla too, because here's a funny linkage. My dad likes cars, right? And growing up, he'd always be changing over cars. Even now, 88, I don't know what he's doing, buying new cars and trading cars, etc. But they visited here a few years ago, and it was literally my birthday, and I booked a test drive of a Tesla, just because I thought it would be fun to take them for a drive and see what the experience. And because you've got this guy giving you a tour of the showroom and then driving around, I was just asking questions just for the fun of it, saying, tell me about the car, tell me about the technology, tell me about the deal. And it was 6 months before the X was released. By the end of that 1 hour, I'd put down a deposit of whatever, 5,000 US dollars, because they said, look, you can walk away from this if you don't want to, you get a free option. And by the way, if it gets delivered by the end of March, you'll avoid tax. At the time, the Hong Kong government had a 0% tax on it. But they said, beyond that, we don't know what's going to happen. Anyway, fast forward, we did end up buying that Tesla, and we barely drive it. It's been sitting in the garage for 3 years. We've only done 5,000 kilometers because you don't really need to drive around Hong Kong. But I did manage to go to the Tesla factory when I went to Singularity University, and the fun thing was I bought an electric skateboard that week called the Boosted, and I opened the box and rode it around the Tesla car park. So it was kind of like electric squared. Anyway, so I'm going to say thank you to that. I'm going to bring in an Irish connection. So I've shipped some of my books to Singapore, to Australia, and to Ireland. And we've hosted quite a few people with us when we were living in Hong Kong or in Singapore. It's one of our kind of family traditions. Fiona Kindlin is a very distant relative of my wife, and she's helping to distribute books around Ireland, including, I got a photo this morning where she's written Margaret O'Brien's name on an envelope and she's posting a book to her. She's also posting a book to a colleague's father who's 77 years old. He's just written a book about growing up as an orphan. Actually, Gail and I are going to try and connect to that gentleman and do an interview. Maybe we could turn it into one of these conversations
Sure.
if he can get familiar with the tech. And then, so I'm going to acknowledge Fiona and also Paul Trainer, who is the son of the father that was the orphan. He is one of 7 children, 6 sisters and one boy. Paul is based here in Hong Kong, and he's become a really great sounding board. He's amazing at technology and showing me lots of new tools and tricks. So yeah, he's a great guy.
It's awesome, man. I'm going to be with my three things very centric in the sense that I'm grateful for coffee, and the coffee I'm drinking right now was actually, it's Juan Valdez, and it was it was made in Colombia. My fiance bought it for me, 2 pounds of it, whole bean, brought it over on the plane. So I'm going to tic tac that I am grateful for coffee. I'm grateful for air travel. I'm grateful for gifts. And love people showing up with beautiful gifts that are very unique and delicious. So that's my gratitude in the moment I'm thinking about. I wanted to make it as a whole.
So speaking of gifts, I've got another recent contact that published a book called The Gifts of Reading. I don't know if she's listening, Jenny Orchard. She's just relocated back to Australia, but it's similar to your project, Chris. It's an anthology of essays, 23 essays, I think, of people discovering the gifts of giving books and how that can take on a life of its own. And so I've just bought a bunch of her books to give away because I'm learning lots about each of the people that wrote an essay describe one of their favorite books that they were given as a child or as a travel journey, a journal, or something like that. Anyway, I'm going to pause there because there's something that we need to talk about this kindness workshop, because I don't know a lot about that. I want to hear more about that because that can link into some of our other stories around kindness. So I don't know if
Gail
you
and
want
Manu,
to go in
yeah,
that direction.
gift of shared kindness. You guys go ahead and tell us about it and how it happened. Go ahead. Well, Peter and I are just going to listen.
Okay, I'll go ahead and tell the backstory. So maybe about 4 or 5 years ago, I was shopping for Christmas gifts and trying to think of something to give my father, who is now 84. And there isn't much that he wants or needs, any physical gifts. So I'm not quite sure where the idea came from, but my dad goes out to eat a fair amount and he likes to joke around with the wait staff in the restaurants. He has this standing joke that he's been doing for years where he has his cup of coffee and he can balance his spoon so that it stands straight up and down. And then he will call the wait staff over and complain that his coffee is too stiff. And so as a child, it was mortifying. As an adult, it's just fun to watch the interactions occur. So anyhow, I'm shopping and I'm thinking, what is something I can give him that will give him joy? And the idea came, what if I gave him little envelopes inside of a bigger card that had random amounts of cash in? And then when he went out to eat, he could leave that card on top of his bill and the tip that he would leave already as a random act of kindness. And I thought that that could give him joy being a giver, because we all know that giving often is receiving. You feel joy yourself. And I thought that it would then also give whoever was serving him some joy because they got something unexpected. And so I didn't know how it was going to work. It was handcrafted. I used a regular Christmas card and made little envelopes myself and wrote a little note in them. Thanks for taking care of my dad today. And at Christmas, we were at my niece's house. Kids were all hyped up on their sugar, wrapping paper flying everywhere. I watched him open it and he took a few minutes to look at it and asked me a few questions. So I leave this and pay my bill. How do I know I'm not giving too much? And he said, well, that's the whole point. You can't give too much. This is above and beyond an act of kindness. And so I made a promise to myself I wasn't going to ask him about it. I was just going to let it play out. A couple of months later, I met him for lunch at a restaurant and his lady friend was with him. And when it came time to pay the bill, her eyes lit up and she kind of nudged my dad and said, can we give one of the cards today? And my dad was like, yes. And so they left a card that day. And they also shared with me a few stories about other cards they had given out and how they had given them to servers that they knew, places that they frequented regularly. And my dad got a hug. He got, a big handshake and lots of smiles. So it turned out like I had hoped it would. Anyhow, that's kind of sat on the back burner all this time. I gave it to my dad every year, but I didn't take it anywhere else. And when Manu and I were looking for something to collaborate on, I offered it up as a suggestion. And Manu at the time and still is working on artwork and cartooning. And so he crafted this beautiful picture of a Jack and the Beanstalk drawing with people helping each other to climb up. And inside there is a poem. On the back of the card, there is the story of how it all played out with my father. And so now we have a professional looking product that we would like to share with others who also want to spread kindness and connection.
How do I buy some of these?
Aha, we have them for sale on Etsy.
Okay,
Yeah.
Can you post the link later? I'd like to buy a bunch of those.
And we'll
Yes.
definitely have that in the show notes too. So we'll,
Yeah.
people
Oh.
want to have that. Manu, can
So-
you, yeah, please.
So sorry, before, yeah, it's on Etsy, but we have a short URL so that you don't get confused. That short URL will really lead to the Etsy product page. Yes. Go ahead, Chris. Sorry.
Oh no, it's like on your end, she's kind of told the full story, but when you you want to pick up when she suggested this, how organically then
Well,
you put in the drawing and all
yeah.
the creativity. Please.
Right. So certainly we knew that, this partnership has worked once, that I do something, and of course that was initially the Mother's Day was my concept, and that this drawing, but this was totally her concept, and we brainstormed about how this could visually look like, and again, that Bad Jack and the Beanstalk was an excellent idea, and the poetry she wrote, and the whole conceptualization against in terms of, first of all, practical, because we started, should it be physical, should it be PDF? If it is PDF, should we have envelopes in that? Then how will the envelopes fit in? Someone might form 3 or 5 or 10, or you know we don't want people buying small envelopes and big envelopes. So how should we do that so that it is easily packageable? They can even buy a PDF and, without being crafty, create envelopes out of them, in which, so this was like one of the small envelopes, and without needing for an additional envelope, they can really create one pouch or something where they can put currencies, as she said. It could be even a gift card. We made such big that even needed a gift card can fit in. So all those things really coming in. The whole idea is that, of course, the whole idea is that we want people to experience the joy of giving, just the way her dad gave it. Like, the whole point was also above and beyond, and that's what we package it, the name as Above and Beyond cards. If you go on the Etsy site, we have the main card and the Above and Beyond cards, and there are various configurations. People can buy them. We see that people come in different shapes and sizes, so why not our product too? We got feedback also from people that, I just sometimes want not to give it to others, but I myself want to give the Above and Beyond. So we are giving just people option to buy just the Above and Beyond cards too. That essentially it's the same thing, but we'll be kitting it the way we get the orders. So all this all going on, and it's been so much fun. uh, I hope I touched upon what you really wanted. Or is there something?
No, that's great.
Yeah.
For
Actually,
sure.
you sort of reminding me, Chris, I mean, this whole journey for you into gratitude, do you want to give us the backstory there as well? Because one of the things that inspired me was, I think you listened to a podcast where it said, look, on your birthday, it's not about receiving, it should be about giving. And you wrote a letter, for your mother. And that inspired me. On my birthday, I went, well, okay, I'm turning a significant number. What can I give to my parents? So now my dad is wearing Vans checkered slip-on shoes as an 88-year-old, and my mum has a Vans checkered scarf because of your idea to give something on your own birthday instead. So do you want to explain a bit more about your backstory into gratitude?
Sure, I'd love to, and I think that's a really great point with Gail and her dad, and then obviously my mom and me. Years ago, I was listening to the Adam Carolla podcast, and he was talking about how he didn't really celebrate his birthday, and then it actually started because I mean, if anybody's ever listened to his podcast, you would know that his parents weren't the best parents. But what he realized growing up was that, instead of celebrating his birthday, it's like appreciation trophy, that he was basically encouraging people to make it mean something. Like, if you were to graduate or you had a new job, celebrate something, not just the fact that you were born, make it about something, or make it about somebody. So that's kind of what I heard, was like, make it about somebody. So my birthday was coming up, and I decided to make it about my mother. So I got up really early in the morning, and I wrote her essentially what was a gratitude letter. And I put that on her Facebook because 2 reasons. I wanted her to find it. So I wanted it to be a surprise. And I also wanted it to be public. I wanted people to read it. So, an amazing thing happened because I had the intention to do that. I ended up making this connection with my mother, in the sense that, her and I were very close, but when I tried to talk to her later in the day, my dad basically told me that she needed time with it, and that she couldn't speak to me, which is if you're really close with somebody, you would think, how can that even be possible? So it's one of those, and I still didn't talk about it. I just don't know how. Again, you just don't know where people are when they read things and how they perceive things. But, it just connected with her in a way that nothing else probably ever could have, just coming from me at that time. And it was just a beautiful connection that was made simplistically by writing an appreciation letter in love to my mother. Very simple letter, nothing that anybody could have done it, just speaking from their heart. And, you know, things kind of twist and turn from there because my mom's cancer came back, and 4 months a day later, you know, she was in hospice care and she passed away, you know, in hospice care with my dad sleeping on the floor next to her. And it really, you know, the whole thing really made me take a pause to reflect on what happened, you know, and the fact that I was very grateful that that moment happened, you know, that I did do that, because, you know, it's not the same afterwards. You know, you can't have, when you're speaking in the present tense and you're thinking of people, it's a very different thing. The connection wouldn't be there, you know. For example, you know, I like to talk about gratitude stacking. You know, this whole room is a full gratitude stack. It's a massive gratitude stack. And, you know, my obviously when I tell my story, I like to say that my letter was the first stack, you know, and then her receiving the letter was another stack, and then people reading that letter was another stack. But honestly, the first stack was my mom loving me and caring for me. The first stack was the fact that she cared, that she's the one that showed me what true love was. She's, you know, and I love talking recently, and thanks to Gail, actually, Gail's group we met, you know, I started thinking about kindness in a whole different way. I started thinking about there's gratitude, there's saying what you're grateful for, but there's different ways to become a catalyst for gratitude. And a major simplistic way is kindness. Just being kind to somebody, you're literally being a catalyst for gratitude. So what Gail and Manu are doing with their cards is they're creating catalysts for gratitude. They're literally, they're making this up. They're putting this together because they want people to be kind, and in kindness, gratitude exists and lives. So it's a really powerful thing. That's another reason why I was really glad that we could have them on, because their project is completely in line and with my heart of everything that I do. You know, on my end with GratitudeSpace and everything, I'm just wanting to get, and I just want to create an atmosphere for people to be grateful and to realize they have gratitude. And that's, and kindness, and their project does that, you know, and they're encouraging people just like me, and going out encouraging people, you know, encouraging Peter, going, will you write for my book? Will you write an essay, right? Then he goes, oh, I got a friend, he introduced me to Gail, and then Gail writes a letter, you know, and then Peter, since he has his daughter, write a letter, you know, and then, you know, Abby wrote a letter because I think probably because of Gail mentioned, I don't know. Anyways, all these people engaged in a moment, sitting down literally and having a moment in gratitude, because of that connection, and it's all kindness. It's all this catalyst to bring gratitude into the world, and it's just in human connection. So I know I'm just kind of ranting now, man, but it's such a beautiful thing. This is just a huge stack of gratitude that's just going to continue to, like, it's the accidents continue and the gratitude exists and grows.
Can I add something? Yes.
Yeah, please.
There's a friend of mine who asked when I introduced this project. He said, okay, so what's your aim now? What are you shooting for? And I just said that, you know, I'm already successful with this project. That's what I said. Because not that, you know, I've never been with a collaboration with someone, not that it is hard or easy, but, you know, of course, coming there and getting this done, getting us clicked, you know, so many things happening in the right place at the right time, again, connecting with the productive accidents happening, and we reaching so far. And I said, I've already, so with that, whenever I arrive, and probably Gail also, of course, does that, and we arrive, there's no really tension. There's never tension that we should have done this so far, and, you know, why are we lagging, or are you lagging, am I lagging, where are we lacking, you know, that is not there. And there's always a gratitude, and there's always positivity with us, and we have been able to proceed so far. Yeah.
I'm a big fan of, well, alliteration. I know Gail is also on the, you know, apparently I think you read something that said alliteration should be avoided, but we both embrace it, and it becomes sort of a little personal challenge with our social media posts. You know, how many words can you connect? But one of the ways that I've kind of evolved into building a network is by starting a conversation with anybody, making a connection. You keep talking until you find something you both care about. And so for instance, it could be kindness that we're talking about today. Then the next step is, okay, you've connected, you care about something, you challenge yourself to collaborate, to take that to another level. And so that's what you guys have done organically. That's what we're doing today. why I got curious about the whole gratitude and pasta thing is because I have a gratitude project as well that was formed based on attending a General Assembly event, which is like night school for startups. There was a guy, Mush Pantwani, who gave a talk about the essence of being an entrepreneur. And in that talk, he spoke about the fact that he'd been made redundant, and yet he's such a positive guy that he said, well, it's okay. I was going to quit in a few years anyway and write a book. I've been doing a blog. I'll just do it now. And he spoke about how he reverse engineered a book. You know, he said, look, if you want to write a book, you just say, look, it's going to be 100 pages long and I want to finish it in 100 days. That means you need to do a page a day. And that inspired me to self-publish my first book. And, you know, eventually the second book. You can't do a second book unless you've done a first. And then I was on a flight to Melbourne, and I was going, well, look, I'm listening to Seth Godin. I've just read Malcolm Gladwell about 10,000 hours. Seth Godin's always saying to ship your work, get it out there. And I'm like, well, what is my work? You know, I'm not going to do a daily blog about economics or finance or banking or whatever, but maybe I could connect the dots between gratitude, 10,000, and write 10,000 thank yous. And that's, you know, a project that started 7 years ago. And obviously I haven't been doing it every day because I'm only up to, I don't know, around 1,200 or something like that. But that discipline of looking for something to be grateful for every day and acknowledging a person or an experience or anything is really powerful. And if you do divide 10,000 by 365, you get 27.4 years. So this is really like a lifelong journey. And the fun bit is I'm actually looking forward to reminiscing, which seems weird in both directions, right? So you're looking forward until you're 88 or 120 or whatever that number is, and having stuff to look back on. And by having this discipline of gratitude, for sure, you know, it's like, man, there's just so much good stuff that's happened. It's kind of overflowing. Compare that to someone who just, I don't know, isn't in the moment and just is either resentful about something that happened in the past or looking forward to one day doing something in the future, but never really being present. So anyway, all of these things keep on connecting. And it's amazing that, you know, just being alert. So someone writing about gratitude and pasta has led to this. And I'm sure there's going to be more that's going to continue. So Gail is super observant and very patient. She just sits and absorbs every conversation. So I want to hear what she has to say about what should happen next.
About what should happen next in this conversation.
With your kindness project, with Chris's projects, with productive accidents, you know, what do we have on our horizon? Because I have a feeling you might be a bit of a futurist as well.
Oh, okay. So what I'm thinking of is just before I started this project and before I was in the creatives workshop, you know, it's easy to get bogged down in all of the negativity happening in the world because it's loud. I have found that there are so many great things happening that aren't as loud, like Chris's project. Chris introduced me to Cheryl Rice, who he spoke to earlier this week with the You Matter project. There are just people doing things to connect and reach out to each other all over the world, which is fascinating. And like we talked about, we're all connected. So I always envision a spider web. And I once read how spiders know what's happening in their web if a fly has gotten stuck or something, because they can feel that vibration come through their threads. I think that all of our productive accidents and efforts towards kindness and connection are just spreading, and we're heading towards a tipping point of just a joyful world.
I really like that. And
Amen.
in fact, the other kindness connection here in Hong Kong is a guy, Jeff Rotmeyer, who created a blog, I don't know, only a few years ago, where I think he was partnering with a group of 6 friends. So they all took a day of the week to write about something. So Jeff took kindness, someone else took design, or, you know, whatever, creativity. But of that group of 7, only Jeff continued. And his blog about kindness evolved into a kindness walk, where he just said, look, there's a bunch of homeless people that live in a poor area here. I'm going to go out and distribute some boiled eggs and water or something and fruit. Does anyone want to join? And fast forward, he's now got 6,000 volunteers. He's got a permanent kitchen in that neighborhood. He has helped lift over 200 people out of, off the streets and gain their trust and, their dignity. And, if you just put someone in an apartment and say, okay, problem solved, that's not really going to work. He's taken the time to really get to know these people and learn their stories. And so it turns out he's also self-published 4 books that he had sitting in his warehouse. I'm like, these are amazing. Why aren't you selling them? They're children's books with an amazing author. And I bought a set of them. There's 4 books, and I gave them to a friend, one of my buddies who plays tennis. He's just had a grandson. And I said, well, I've got some books that I can give you. And they loved the book so much. They said, how can I get more? So I've just bought a collection of these books ready to distribute. And I'm going to encourage, I'll post something about those books potentially as well. And I forgot to mention on that, the gifts of reading that Jenny Orchard had distributed. She's doing that where all net proceeds go to Room to Read, which is an NGO that is teaching literacy around the world. Manu, I can see you nodding, you're probably familiar with it. They're up to, John Wood, the founder, wrote a book called Leaving Microsoft to Change the World about, 20 years ago. Actually, this is their 20th anniversary. And Jenny was so inspired that she set up the Australian chapter years ago. And this book, The Gifts of Reading, is inspired by Room to Read, and net proceeds are going to that. So anyway, lots we can talk about there. The other backstory is John Wood wrote the foreword to my book, which is another productive accident. It's all converges eventually over time. Anyway, enough.
I know our time's running down. We got about 10 or 11 minutes left. I wanted to get to a couple of my staple gratitude questions. So, Gail, if you were going to explain gratitude to a 10-year-old, how would you go about doing that?
Okay, so I'm trying to remember what I was like as a 10-year-old. Okay, I've got something. So if you're a 10-year-old, imagine how you'd feel if you just had the stomach flu. You've been sick for a couple days and you're getting over it and you're starving. And instead of your mom serving you chicken noodle soup and toast and rice, your dad goes out and gets you takeout, a burger, fries, and a chocolate malt. That's the feeling you would have of gratitude. Nice.
Love that. That's great. I love the imagery and everything. That's wonderful. I love that. Manu, I got one question for you now. It's one of my favorite ones. So basically I'm going to ask you a recession of 3 questions, and I just want you to answer with one name. Okay. Each time you're just going to say one word. Okay.
Same name.
No, it's going to be changing up. So when I say the words, somebody in your life you're grateful for, who popped in your mind? Give me a name.
So I think you repeated that question. So I would say Tesla. Or maybe my wife.
No, person. This is a person.
So wife, my wife.
Wife. Okay. Somebody in your life you're grateful for.
Same question?
Yeah.
My wife.
No, I need you. This is
okay.
This is supposed to be.
Sorry.
I'm trying to go. It's obviously we could totally get you great for your wife, and I get that. What we're doing is a recession here, so I'm going to ask you again. Somebody in your life you're grateful for.
Gail.
Gail. Okay, and then we're going to go one more time. Somebody in your life you're grateful for.
My dad for making me learn math whole night.
Wow. Okay, let's go. I love this. So you said your dad, he taught you how to learn math. Go give it a little more there.
Okay.
Hold on.
Yes.
Please, there's a story there. It's a good story there. Go.
Yes. So, okay. I graduated from a very good college in India, and that's almost like the Harvard of India. So, and I would attribute all that to my dad. And he would do this. He would say that, you all waste your time on Saturdays and, when you don't have school. So I'll let you do this. So I'll make you tea for, back in India, we had tea like 3 times a night, and I'll make sure that you don't sleep. And, so why don't you just study whole night, just like marathon, and I'll make sure that you don't sleep. And there was a kind of little bit of discipline there. And and then in the morning you sleep, and so that you don't get disturbed. So he had a convoluted way of doing that thing, but it worked for me, because that would really help me, first of all, be with the marathon. Otherwise I would constantly get disturbed about, and math was an nemesis for me, and I really cracked that subject in the entrance exam, and I would say that that helped me get into the good college.
That's wonderful. I only asked that question because what happens is I love the go-tos, I do, but because I got to ask you a third time, your mind actually went to, hold on, who's coming to me? You know what I mean? Like, it was allowing you to actually manifest something actually popped. You know what I mean? Instead of like, we're right here, it kind of, so because it's not about, it's obviously not about who show, it's not about order. It's just about what occurs. So I really loved the fact that you went my dad, and then you like had this great story. So thank you.
So, well, I would say that you are master in this, and your trick worked.
It usually does. It's great. So thank you. What do you think about that, Peter?
Yeah, it's cool. You did the same thing for me, right? When we had our conversation, and it led to me remembering my neighbor who used to live across the road from us in Armidale, who was literally born exactly on the same birthday, but 50 years ahead of me. And I was turning 50. We were doing my birthday sort of podcast series. And the essay that I wrote for your anthology is acknowledging him and the fact that he was the person that called the ambulance when I had a bad bike accident when I was 8. Then he gave me my first job, which turned into my first skateboard, which turned into all this other stuff, and all the birthday cake along the way. So it was cool that you forced that memory to come out.
Yeah, it was a good one, man. And it was interesting. I remember you said you're looking for something interesting to occur on your birthday. And then because of gratitude and you finding that person's blog, you want to share a little bit about that story? That the guy that had it was the essay that said, I have cancer and I'm not going to be surviving quarantine.
Oh yeah, and that was just through a family WhatsApp chat. Someone had posted that, and yeah, I don't know his full story, but it turns out I think he passed away literally on my birthday. I don't know, maybe there was a time difference around there, but I was on the lookout for someone that was born on my birthday so that I could continue this 50-year tradition. It flipped when it suddenly became someone that died on my birthday. So that was an unexpected twist, right? So yeah, now I'm not sure what to do with that.
Oh, well, I just wanted to bring up the guy because he had a great essay. He was speaking about, this guy was literally speaking about, I have days, or, he was speaking from a place of seeing the end, right? And he had these 5 things that he wanted to pass on to people. What have I learned? And the first one was about gratitude and being grateful. So that's why Peter shared it with me, and it was really powerful because this gentleman at the time when Peter shared it with me, he was alive, but then within a few days, and I tried to reach out to him because I was like, man, this is so good, right? I wanted to physically be able to share what he wrote, but this man, this boy, guy younger than me, I don't know, I think he was maybe 30, but he was speaking from a place of seeing the end, and he was just saying, be grateful, appreciate what's going on in front of you, the people you're with. It was really beautiful and powerful. And that's kind of what so in the fact that Peter shared that with me was really beautiful. And it was very interesting that we found out later, because I tried to reach out to the guy that the same day that ended up being Peter's birthday, a few days after that was when he passed away. So
you were trying to get his writing incorporated in your book, but I don't think we got a response, right, from the foundation.
No, never got a response.
But I think one day they will, and maybe it'll be in volume 2 or 3 or 4 of the Gratitude Anthology, because I can see, this is a series potentially.
Yeah, for sure. Well, hey, we got about 4 or 5 minutes left. Anybody, Peter, you got any questions for Gail or Manu, or do you want to give some closing thoughts?
Maybe, yeah, just this Wednesday group, what is that? Is it just an ad hoc group chatting about kindness, or tell me more?
Okay, no, okay, so I started it maybe about a couple of months ago, and we call it Hump Day Hijinks because it happens on Wednesday, middle of the week.
There's some alliteration again. Here we go.
Alliteration, yes. So it started out with, I think, 4 or 5 of us, and we've added 1 or 2 people since, but we come with a prompt every week. Either I come up with something or one of the other members of the group comes up with a prompt, and we just have these really rich discussions because everybody comes with their different perspective. We're incredibly respectful of each other. Everybody gets a chance to share. We ask questions of each other if there's something we want to know more about, and then we move on to the next person. So, Manu, do you remember what we talked about on Wednesday?
This Wednesday?
Yeah.
I would remember, but maybe it will be quicker if you could say. Yeah.
You know why I asked you? Because I can't remember.
Okay, so it's gonna follow me then. So we were talking about this is great. We spent like an hour talking about this, the 3 of us, right? And none of us could remember the exact prompt. The prompt, I think you had a quote from Lions, the movie Lions, not Lions Den. Robert Wall quote from that movie, Secondhand Lions, but that isn't what the prompt was, though.
No, it was a Helen Keller quote, and it was about optimism, right?
Oh yeah, yes. Now I'm with you. Yeah, it was like, what is something in your life or something going on that you're not worried about, or that you foresee it's going to be okay? And that's where
Yes.
your main thing, Gail, was that you foresaw that there's a tipping point of this goodness and good things happening where there's going to be an overspill. That was your main thing, right? Yeah. Yeah.
I actually think that links in quite well to House of Beautiful Business. You know, this whole think tank is around, you know, let's think beyond traditional profit and just hardcore whatever. And this community is coming together around authenticity and making business more beautiful and humans more human and all these other good things. So I think these conversations are an extension of that. I can see how there could be linkages into that group over time. Even the woman that hosted the Sydney version of House of Beautiful Business, I met her by a productive accident last December. We were going to Singapore to see a U2 concert. And that week on LinkedIn, Tracy Hamilton had posted something and I thought she seems interesting. I read her profile and it said that she hosted net walking experiences. So instead of meeting at a coffee shop and, you know, building your network that way, you actually go for a walk. So I thought, well, I've got Sunday morning free in Singapore, you know, reached out and we decided we'd meet at a coffee shop, but then we'd go for a walk around the Botanic Gardens. And within 2 hours, we had about 10 things that we should be collaborating on. And it continues to this day. She's helping a Netflix series get launched in Australia about sending rockets to the moon and encouraging children to write their dreams and design a rocket and send it to the moon. So we did one with my 10-year-old daughter, Ruby, and we're part of that. And they're going to project these images onto some material and have a helicopter that flies across Sydney, dragging these dreams and some other launch that they're doing on November 2. Anyway, but that's why I really enjoy these connections, right? And you know, who knows what's going to happen next? But eventually, when travel is on, Chris, you're going to come and stay with us in Hong Kong for a couple of weeks. Gail, you're going to come to Hong Kong. Manu, whenever you're ready, that tradition will continue. And the best thing about having people stay with us and having that family tradition is, sure, we get to hang out more. The magic happens when I'm not in the room, and the conversations that happen, you know, with my children and, you know, my wife and extended family. And so, yeah, I kind of talk about that in the book and how meeting Adrian Bellick created this tradition. You know, in 1 month, we had a documentary filmmaker from LA, we had a musician from Melbourne, and we had a Maasai tribal guy from Tanzania. And it was like, you know, how did that just happen? But welcoming people into your home is a thing. So I highly encourage that, you know, and see where it goes.
For sure. Well, this has been great, guys. I really enjoyed our hour together. I think I want to thank Peter for connecting all of us and the relationship growing and everybody sharing today. It's been really wonderful.
Thanks for having us, Chris.
Thank you, certainly.
Oh, For sure, for sure. Well, I'm gonna close this out here, but don't hang out because I want to talk to you guys afterwards. So I'm Chris with Manu and Gail and Peter, and we're just reminding you guys that get out there, experience life, connect with people. You never know where it's going to end up, but staying at home, I'll tell you where it ends up. It ends up nowhere, and you all have a lot to be grateful for. So thank you for staying in with this hour, and we look forward to seeing you next week. We're out. Well, sweet. Well, the live thing's done, guys. That was awesome, guys. I really enjoyed it. It was wonderful.
That was great.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good fun. Good fun. So I really like how you've got the Jack and the Beanstalk thing, right? And one of the things you mentioned there was, I'm going to say a phrase, and to me it seems connected. I think Room to Read have a saying, or maybe it's one of the other NGOs that I've discovered, but they don't give handouts, they give hand up, helping people climb the ladder and all these other things. So there's something we could talk about there if somewhere along the lines. So what's the poem talk about? Is it literally how you gave the envelopes to your father? Is it about that, or?
Okay, so in the inside, it says.
Can you hold that up close to the screen? I'll take a screenshot.
Yep.
Got it.
Jack traded his cow for a handful of beans. You hold a deck of magic envelopes. With this gift of a gift, you are a magician, spreading kindness and connection.
Nice.
And then the back is the story.
I like it.
Yeah, and Gail sent me 3 of them, which is great, and I've given one out. I don't go out and eat as much, but I have 2 other ones, so they're really. Yeah. I was just telling Peter that they're really beautiful, and I appreciated you mailing those to me.
Well, if you find them beautiful, the new version will be even more beautiful.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we continue to work on improvements.
Yeah.
Well, I understand, of course. Yeah. Well, you guys are creative and artists, so it's nothing's ever really done, right? Because it isn't like you're putting it on the wall and sticking it and saying that's it, we're done.
So there's one version where it's a flat product that people can fold themselves. Is that right?
Yes, but we've changed that. So I don't know how well you can see this, but there's a dotted line, and Manu was incredibly creative and inventive because you can fold it together like a little.
It's all that math he was doing all night.
It's all going back to your dad. Your dad, yeah.
Theorem came into play, a whole bunch of things.
Yeah.
But we've made it now so that we can fit 4 on a page, and they fold with
yes, and like a small book or something, and
like that's got a little e-zine, right? E-zine or whatever.
Yeah.
Hey, actually, Manu, do you know Austin Kleon?
No.
The author.
You need to meet him because he's in Austin, Texas as well, and he does little e-zines or e-zines with his son. And it's become one of his little projects. If you follow him on Instagram, he wrote the book called Steal Like an Artist, and then he wrote Show Your Work. Then he wrote Keep Going. And
they're
actually,
all 3 great books.
And he kind of inspired me because the formula for his books is quite simple: 10 insights with a few examples that reinforce those insights. And that's exactly what my book is, right? I mean, initially I was going to make it look and feel exactly like Still Like an Artist, Keep Going, all that. Then I just had too many examples. It became a regular book. But yeah, I think you should meet him one day. That would be cool. I think once you've discovered his newsletter, he often distributes like 10 cool things that he's discovered. Could be a piece of music, piece of writing, anything. But yeah, even Still Like an Artist, I think was amazing. It's how we discovered a book by Patti Smith, right? Musician from the 70s. It turns out she wasn't even going to have a band. It's like she'd written a bunch of poems, and then someone one day said, "Hey, you should put some music to this," and that became her musical career. But she wrote a book called Just Kids, which was about her time as a starving artist, really growing up in New York. But amazing life story, and a whole bunch of other things. But Austin Kleon's cool. I actually reached out to him saying, look, I'm going to be at South by Southwest. If you're around, it'd be cool to meet up. And he said, you know what? It's such a crazy place. I get out of here. You know, like I leave Austin when South by is on. So,
Yes.
you know, I don't know if that was
Yeah.
going to happen or not. Do you leave or do you stay?
Oh, this time we were really shopping for, an RV, so that, and during those times it's like spring break. So,
Mhm.
you don't really have a lot of time with kids not in school. So yeah, we leave. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
How,
good that I didn't book an RV. We were really going, it was February, we were planning ahead and this COVID came in. It's good that we did not, because everything was standstill there.
yeah. How old are your children?
My daughters are twin daughters and they are a
Oh,
sophomore
wow.
in college.
Oh, wow.
They are 20 and 20. Yeah.
Wow.
My
I
head,
wouldn't have guessed you. I wouldn't have guessed you
I
had
would. I'm not.
daughters in college. Yeah, I guess I didn't think of you as the elderly guy with the guy, girls in college.
I'm not familiar with what is sophomore again? What does that mean?
Second year in college. Yes.
Oh, second year in college. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And why is it called sophomore? What does it actually mean?
Gail will know.
It's well with college in the States, it's freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior because it's 4 years. It's just like our high schools are the same. So that's what that is. It's just a recession:
Yeah.
freshman, sophomore, junior, senior.
Yeah. I
Like
don't know
1,
why
2,
they
3,
call
4.
it that way. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just definitions.
Yeah.
Hey, Manu, just on the math thing, have you ever read a book called Fermat's Enigma or Fermat's Last Theorem?
Matt's last theorem. I think I know it's in part of engineering, right? Yes. Yes, I recall that.
Great book, written by a guy called Simon Singh, who turned it into a documentary, like a PBS documentary. But it's like the history of math, but it's also like a 300-year mystery of, someone who, so Fermat is this French mathematician from, I don't know, 300 years ago or more, who in the border of a book wrote, x to the n plus y to the n equals z to the n can't be solved for any whole number greater than 2, something like that. But unfortunately, the border here is a little bit too small to write my proof. And then he died. And then for 300 years, people were going, well, hang on, I wonder what that guy's proof was. People ended up going crazy, committing suicide, putting up, rewards, all these other stuff. Then a guy in Cambridge locked himself away, Andrew Wiles, I think his name was, for 7 years to try and work out how do you solve this puzzle, because no one could actually solve it, let alone write it in the border of a book. And then he announced that he was going to do a lecture at Cambridge. People from around the world got excited, media converged. He presented his material. Then someone in the audience said, hey, line number 3, you've made a mistake. And he had to go and lock himself away for another year to plug the hole. But what's cool was he invented whole new streams of math. And one of those that he rejected and sort of put aside ended up helping to plug the hole. So anyway, a whole bunch of productive accidents. But in terms of persistence, it's an amazing story. 7 years of, staying in your basement pretty much.
Yeah.
Anyway, great book. Fermat's Enigma. It's written in 2 titles. I don't know why. In Australia, maybe it was Fermat's Last Theorem, and in the US, Fermat's Enigma. I'm not sure. Just like the movie Airplane in the US. In Australia, that's called Flying High. If you Google those movies, you'll see 2 different titles, and it's exactly the same movie. Flying High.
You're talking about the comedy movie from the 80s, right?
Airplane? Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah, in Australia, that's Flying High. Yeah.
You know something interesting, in South America, limes are called lemons and lemons are called limes.
That's funny.
So my fiance, I have a lime, she calls it a lemon. That's what they do in South America. It's literally
you
called
call it
the other
tomato,
thing.
I call it tomato as well. So, that's another thing.
Okay, well, isn't lime limon? Not lemon, but limon?
Oh, I don't know. I just know that when I'm holding a lime, she calls it a lemon. And then a lemon would be a lime. So I don't know how does it work the other way then? I don't know. It's just one of those odd things. It didn't make any sense to me, but it was very interesting. You cross the continent and the fruits are the opposite names. What are you gonna do? So this has been great, guys. Thanks a lot. I know you guys got to go.
Yeah.
Peter, can we chat for a couple more minutes, or do you got to run off?
Sure, yeah. No, I'm
Okay.
fine.
Thanks, Chris and
Okay.
Peter.
Thank you.
Gail. Thank you.
Thank you.
Manu.
Thank you
so
guys.
much.
It's been wonderful. You guys have a great night. Yeah, I'll see you on Wednesday, and I'll get you all this when this is on the podcasting. I'll send you all the links and everything, so you share it.
Thank you.
And Gail, I think
Welcome.
you have Hedgehog. Your morning, your 8 a.m. or my 9 p.m. something like that, right?
Yes.
So I think I can join this time. Last week I couldn't, but this time I think I can. So yeah, that'll be fun.
Okay. See you in 12 hours.
All right.
That's
See you
it.
guys.
See you.
Bye.
Bye.